Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT community events on the official RENNSPORT channel, which is quite convenient having the same name. Today we will have a bit of a longer race again, 90 minutes at Road Atlanta with GT3s and Hypercar. And I don't have to deliver 90 minutes of talking by my own here today because I'm again joined by Tim Ireland in the booth.
Hello, Lino, and hello, Twitch people. I don't know if we have any yet. Do we? Oh, we do.
We do.
Hello.
We actually have. Yeah, today back to more endurance type of racing, as we right now are in qualifying. We had it a while ago, we had a similar event a few months ago. But of course, since then stuff has changed, most notably of course the GT3 tires, which recently were updated. But I think this could be very different from what we've seen about half a year ago in the 200-mile Road Atlanta, wasn't
Yeah, that was it was more of an endurance of driver versus or car versus wall than anything else. There was a few plucky people who took on that challenge, whereas today we've got a lot better numbers, got a lot more GT3 cars for sure, and I'm looking forward to it being a good race.
Yeah, of course we predicted the real-life Petit Le Mans with that event, but predicting a car without headlights is gonna cause some controversy at the end of the race. Does that count on the commentators cursing? Like, is that the same category? I'm not sure.
We'll find out, I suppose, as the race goes on.
We will find out. Ali Zahir will be one of the first cars to set a lap time here. Coming around the final turns, turn 10A and turn B. Down the hill. We've seen some interesting racing in the FDRL race here recently, which had Kimi Hapler being on top of the GT3s. So it will be interesting to see how this develops here. We have more competition. Adrian Lunius and Ali Zayas in the likes of Julian Checo and Enrico Boininger already competed here. You did compete in that race.
I did, yeah. I competed in a race for once. Shocking. I say competed. I was very much an also-ran in that race.
I mean, you did finish, which is a feat in itself. Kimi Hapler topping the timing tables in GT3 with an 18.5, but we've seen him doing 18.0s. Mark Onyemachi, the first hypercar to set a lap time. As Dominic Lala just tops the lap time by quite a margin. I think those two will have a fun fight here today, won't they? BMW versus Porsche.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not really sure about the lap times for the hypercars around here. I did a little bit of practice to try and do some research, shall we say, before the cast, and my lap times were terrible. So they definitely won't be mine.
Well, on time trial you expect in the BMW at the least about mid-9s. So a low 10 here in qualifying is already very strong lap time. I think we will see Mark Onyemachi improve a bit. Meanwhile, Rowan and Hurt just topped the timings in GT3. But, yeah, a 10.3 is already a strong benchmark, and we will see if Dominic Lala can still improve on that. Of course, Road Atlanta, you have a lot of time. It's a very short lap. 10 minutes of qualifying as usual, where you are alone on track, even though we, of course, see all the cars to compare them. But around the final turn, not an improvement this time around. Kimi Hapler just took back the lead in GT3. But here we've got, I think, a very interesting grid. Lots of people we already know, a few people we haven't seen so much. Some people returning. I know we say that pretty much every second time, but it just is the case like that. I think that was Radoslav Pionkiewicz, who might also stream this race. I'm not sure if he's broadcasting his POV.
Yeah, the GT3s at the minute getting down to the low 18s. Maybe see some 17s cropping up towards the end of the session. I'm not sure.
I mean, the 17 is a super fast time.
It is, yeah.
Kimi Habla doing the 18.0 as promised.
It was very, very close.
One interesting change that I haven't noticed, or I've seen it, but I haven't really realized it. Julian Chico is driving BMW here today. He drove the Audi in FDRL. Change of car, maybe? Change of luck? I mean, we usually see him in an Audi.
Yeah, there's a few people been changing cars around, I think, specifically for Road Atlanta. It is very bumpy, it is very twisty. Some cars deal with it better than others, and I know personally I'm faster in the Porsche or the Audi, but I feel more comfortable doing longer races in the M4 here. So maybe the length of the race is also playing a part in car choice.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We just talked about it before the stream with the hypercars, actually, because Marco Animachi just put down a 10.4, but Dominic Ladler improved to a 9.7 in the meantime, which is a very strong lap time. On that goes. Can Mark keep it out of barrier? No, not quite, unfortunately. But the two cars were built to the same regulations. I think as distinct as GT3s in terms of how they drive. They're both mid-engine rear-wheel drive, but the Porsche is a very aggressive car, while the BMW is more calm. But I can personally get more pace out of the Porsche, but if you're a 2-hour race, I might even consider the BMW because it's safer. Even though I'd probably just stick with the Porsche anyway because I'm a maniac, but...
I don't find the Porsche too bad around here, to be honest. I know it has a reputation for being a difficult car to drive, and it can be for sure. But I think with the right TC and brake bias around here, it can be fairly stable. I found the Audi, which is generally the car I'd try to pick, a lot twitchier than the Porsche. I
Yeah,
think
in
it's
GT3, of course, it's...
yeah, I think more in the kind of like mid-corner lift-off oversteer kind of way.
But it's good we see a good mix of cars. We have, of course, again, a bit of a Porsche priority, as we are used to. But we have two strong AMGs up front. Adrian Looney and Alizar currently second and third in GT3. We have BMWs with some of the good long-run racers. Julian Chico and Enrico Breuninger both have proven that they can be super consistent, super strong in the long run. So they are more like dark horses in this game, or in this race, to be specific. So, yeah, pretty much all three manufacturers that are in the race can or have some hot irons in there to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's a good mix of people, a good mix of abilities, a good mix of cars. Should make for a good race, in theory. For some of these people, it might be the first time doing a multi-class race, so it'll be a bit of a learning experience having the hypercars come screaming past you, because those things have some pace, and they generate the pace in very, very different ways to the GT3s around Road Atlanta, I think.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mark Onimachi is generally a lot stronger in the first sector, loses out in the second one. So you see a big difference, even across a small track like Road Atlanta. We've been talking about it a lot yesterday in the Nordschleife race, so of course a 9-minute lap in the BMW M2. As he improves a bit, but not quite enough. But we are through with qualifying. We have both different cars on the front line. The 963 alongside the BMW M Hybrid by Dominic Ladler on pole position. And in GT3, Porsche front row, then two AMGs, and then two BMWs. Do you want to commentate this, cause anybody, before we go green in this race?
I don't want to commentators curse anybody, Lena. That's never my intent.
Well, anyway, time to not do that then and just have a great race. Cars get ready on the grid. We can already see the two BMWs doing their best Tim Schreider impressions.
There's a lot of disco action going on the grid there.
One of the
I've not
Porsches.
seen a standing start with hypercars, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens here.
We had it a long time ago, actually. But it is interesting. But we should see the lights go green any moment now. And we go green. Oh, and one of the hypercars not going at all. And great avoidance there by everyone to get out of the way of the hypercars. It's Dominic Lala leading from Mark Onimashi, the 2 car going wide here. That should be Kimi Hapla in the gravel. I think Adrian Lunio with that took the lead. No, it's Ron Den Hurt taking the lead in GT3. Kimi Hapla down to, I think that's 8th in class. But up front, Dominic Ladler in front of Mark Onimachi.
There was a bit of an incident in the first few corners at the further back in the GT3 field. I think it was Enrico Breuninger involved there. He's a few seconds back and sporting a much lighter BMW M4 with no boots at the minute.
You can see on your screen there are also some Porsches with some damage. Adrian Lunio meanwhile took the lead in GT3, but now is under pressure from Ron and Hood. Alizai watching from behind as these two swap positions again. And that is the first lap of Road Atlanta, the first of many to come here today.
Still a hypercar on the grid there. Who's...
I think that's Radoslav Jonkovic. Does he have the same issue he had with the Mission R's, maybe?
Not sure. I will give him a few seconds, but then I'm afraid I'm going to have to move him to the pits.
Skiza also with damage. Oh, Adrian Lunio and Aliza are both getting loose there. Coming out of turn 6.
So a few GT3s already in the pits. I think there's a BMW and a couple of Porsches, but I can't see where they are from my camera angle right now.
Here comes Adrian Lunio to the inside of Rondon Hurt into turn 10A. Couldn't quite make it this time. Seems to be also a bit of a fight between the Porsches from 8 to 12. Or at least some of them are getting closer towards each other. And Dominic Lalla currently seems to have the upper hand on pace on Mark Onimachi, but it's early in the race. And no, this is not the Michigan Raceway. This is Road Atlanta in, well, Atlanta. Adrian Lunio is definitely desperate. He really wants to get past. Kimi Hapla dropped down to 13th with a big gap, so he was one of the cars in the pits. Adrian Lunio now to the inside, and this time already alongside the Dutchman for the lead. Can he keep the speed up? No, Rondon Hood with a great drive out of turn 10B and now into the downhill. And this should also be enough to keep defending from the AMG going into turn 1. Ah, Michelin. Yeah, it is. The full name is Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, I think. So, indeed. But so far we still have 16 cars on track. I wouldn't have really guessed that when you mentioned Road Atlanta multi-class. Here we go again in the slipstream of the Porsche. So we also have a squabble for 9th forming, which we will follow shortly after. Oh, a bit of contact, nothing major. And again, Werner is just using his car to the absolute maximum. Lord Kuica, meanwhile, moved up into 9th. He got past Dima Jamirov. And Dominic Ladler getting towards the first lapping maneuvers here. Which, of course, will also play a huge part in this race.
Yeah, it'll affect both classes, really, I think, how they deal with that traffic. There's certainly an art to letting people past. So, but either way, it has some effect on your lap time, no matter how good at it you are. But the fast guys should be fairly good at minimising the time loss they get from letting one of the hypercars through.
Dominic Ladler now on the back of Enrico Breuninger, who is emerged in 15th after his visit to the pits. Only not quite close enough this time around. And also lost quite a lot of time on the exit. Julian Chico also, he started 6th in this race. He's now up into 4th in class, that is. Cesco Munera, I'm not quite sure where he started, but he definitely made a good recovery drive here.
Yeah, Julian Chico's got a bit of a gap to the two cars ahead of Adrian Renault and Aliza here, but if those two start squabbling, well, the top three start squabbling, then that gap can close up fairly rapidly.
Fight for 9th, and the Hypercar, that is Dominic Ladler, stuck right in between the two of them. It's a very tricky situation for both parties, because of course the GT3 want to fight each other, but can't just quite get out of the way of the Hypercar in that moment. You don't have to, but you have to still respect the Hypercar. On road pizza.
Oh, that was pretty sketchy.
I'm surprised he kept that under control, but now here, that is Jason Kizar. It's not for position because he's a lap down, but he just went past the two Porsches, and I think he will make his way up if he continues like that.
Yeah, Jason's had fairly good pace here. He's been doing some of the public races on Road Atlanta, and he's definitely no slouch.
Nakanimachi also went past the both of them. In the background, that is Enrico Breuninger. But yeah, the Porsches.
Pace on that hypercar there, ridiculous.
It's a rocket ship, especially on the straights. But where there's no factory orders here between the Porsches. And then Hood getting a bit unsettled there over the curb. Again, he is close. And again, side by side, but Ron is gonna use the rear engine to full effect and just drive out of turn 10V like it's nothing. I'm really amazed by what he does there every single time. And again, Kubica and... Oh, and Kubica going wide and into the barriers there.
Unfortunately, Mark Onomachi seems to have had some server issues and he's been disconnected, I think.
Yeah, just
So
like a second.
the Hypercar race is now a BMW lock.
Yeah, Luciano Icazo just moved up into second with that. We will try to get you more info on that as soon as possible. You know, I'm thinking, Luciano Icazo, the name says something to me. They're kind of connected to Road Atlanta. Wasn't he, or didn't he win the last Road Atlanta race with this combo?
Might have done, you're right. Possibly. I have not the best memory in the world, but
Neither do I.
we are great commentators.
I mean, usually you have somebody in the background who's looking up facts all the time. Oh, and it is
That's
a
true.
blue screen for Mark Onimachi. That is what has been causing this technical DNF. We should call it maybe. Kimi Harpler meanwhile up into 12th. That's 10th in class. Let's go on board with Alizar here for a bit.
Watch the action ahead of us as they come through the S's.
We just sit back and relax. That was a bit of a track cut there. Can do that a couple of times. You shouldn't do it too much. And Browning on the back of Jason Kizar as well. Don't think Jason will put up much of a fight here. And there through comes Dominic Ladler. Threading the needle.
Alizar here closing up a lot on the brakes there, but compromising his exit coming over the hill.
He's got to find a chance to slip through with Lunia, I think, here. But so far, not even Lunia's able to really find his way past Ronin Hood. And I really enjoy the fight they have. It's no other way to put it.
Yeah, they've got a long way to go in this race. There's still 1 hour 17 minutes over. So they've got a lot of racing yet to do, and they definitely don't want to be screwing it up this early with a rash move, shall we say. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's fairly sensible of them to sit and just keep lapping for now, build up a gap, get some clean air ahead of Julian Secor, and then sort it out at the business end of the race.
Yeah, definitely right there. It's a long way to go. But while they are fighting, they are not losing too much time to Julian Chico in 4th or Cesco Moreira in 5th. But it just looked like Adrian Lunia was giving Ronin Hood a bump draft there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it looked like he was bump drafting as well. I wonder if they're trying to gap Alizar here together.
I mean, that is a pretty good strategy, if you think about it.
Yeah, it's better to have a guaranteed fight for first and second than one for first, second, and third. Improves your odds.
Meanwhile, it was Facundo Genius who won in the BMW Hypercar last time around. But Luciano Icazo has done some other competitions that we have broadcasted. That's why we recognize the name.
Ah, okay.
Nico Boininger has passed Jason Kizar for 13th. That's 11th in class.
Kimi Harpler seems to be making fairly good ground right now. He's doing really consistent lap times. So good on Kimi for carrying on, and he should be able to, if he can maintain his pace, get a fairly decent result out of this.
Yeah, the gap to class leader is, if you want to say so, only 85 seconds. I mean, it is more than a lap. It's now the lapped car of... I'm not quite sure who it is. We will know in just a moment's time. That is... we won't quite know. But it might be... Kubica? Yeah, it is Kubica. Probably not the real one, but shares the name. But yeah, that will also have come into effect. Different GT3 traffic.
Getting thrown off a bit there by Ali Zahir into the first turn, unfortunately. I was in a voice chat before the race, and I know that Ali Zahir was debating what car to use. He felt that the AMG didn't quite have the pace of the Porsche here at Road Atlanta, but he's gone with it because of presumably familiarity and how easy he is with driving the car. And he seems to be doing okay.
I mean, Adrian Lunia is definitely pushing that AMG. Oh, and Adrian Lunia on the grass.
He's going full Kevin Estra there against a Porsche.
These two are not giving each other an inch. But, I mean, Adrian has to be creative, I think. He's not gonna get passed around by just... He's not gonna let him through, let's put it like that.
No, that's for sure. And at least he's shown his commitment to the overtake right there, which will probably be weighing on Rowan's mind a bit.
Dominic Ladler has some damage. I was a bit off-putting there. So, yeah, but you're completely right with that. It's not an easy task to get by Ron. He has really developed as a driver. Sure, there are sometimes situations where you go like, I don't know, mate. But on the other hand, currently he's doing a fantastic job. Adrian Lunia again to the inside. Does he have the speed now he needs? Run braking later. And again, just putting down the power, using that rear engine to full effect. I think the turn 10B is the corner where front engine cars really struggle the most compared to the mid and rear engines.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. The fact that you've got to wait just a fraction of a second more to get on the power, with it being an uphill exit, it probably gives the mid and rear engine cars a little bit of an advantage there. But it does kind of beg the question where he's going to try and seriously make a move. Could it be into the double right-hander halfway through the lap?
Either he has to wait for a mistake by Ron, or he has to just completely surprise him. But even here, Ron is driving defensively. It might cost a bit of time overall, but it just doesn't open up an opportunity for the AMG to slip through. And now I think Adrian Lunia might actually be a bit too close to build up the overspeed he would need into turn 10A. Maybe he goes for the bump draft again? It doesn't.
He's got a fairly decent way alongside there. So Adrian Luna's... Sorry, Rowan is going to have to give him some space.
Oh, they have touched, but I don't think that the touch really... I think that was on power by Adrian Lunia.
Yeah, I think Adrian was trying to get the power on a little bit too early after the first corner there. It's difficult to tell from that camera angle.
I mean, it didn't seem like a hefty impact at all. Just a very slight bit of contact between the two fronts. No car really unsettled, but then the rear just went on Lunia. And I feel like that may have been... Or it was just a weird coincidence with Lunia getting on the throttle and the touch at the same time.
It could well have been, yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be damage to his car, so he's free to carry on. Only lost position to Alizar here.
He has lost a few seconds, but like I said earlier, there's still a lot of racing left to go, and he's definitely had good pace. So let's see if he can recover that back up to Ali Zahir and Rowan.
I mean, Rowan might have a bit of a breather now, that he doesn't have one AMG breathing down his neck, but the next one is
For sure.
not far away.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not expecting the GT3s to do a tyre change here. But what about the hypercars?
The Hypercars is a good point.
They don't have ABS, but looking after your tyres is quite tricky with them.
Actually, simply on pace, it might be a consideration at some point. Not quite sure what the drop-off is. You can easily do a 90-minute stint on the tires. You can probably even triple stint them. But Road Atlanta is a very tire-demanding circuit, and maybe you find yourself more comfortable at some point if you build up a gap like Dominic Ladler is currently doing to Luciani Caso, to come into the pits, get a fresh set of tires, and just be safe out there.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But that could
Dominic
be just...
Ladler's got a fairly hefty gap, so he could definitely go into the pits just for a set of safety tyres.
Yeah, and I mean, everything is just one lapping attempt gone wrong away from turning your race upside down. It's not any... You don't have any form of insurance here. And the lappings, of course, don't just affect the Hypercar and GT3, but also the GT3s within, because we've already seen GT3s being lapped. It's a super short circuit. Even if you don't have the biggest pace difference, you will get closer towards other drivers pretty early.
Although, Dominic Ladler does have some damage right now, and there is a bit of a problem with the in-car menu coming into the pits, so he might, if he did go into the pits, he might be forced to take on board extra fuel,
Indeed.
as well as tyre change and repair the damage, so it could be a lengthy pit stop.
It's a very interesting point as well, of course, to make. Oh, and Alizar here has lost quite a lot of seconds to Ron and Hood and is now under pressure by Adrian Lunio. What has happened to Alizar?
Yeah. I didn't see what happened there. I'll try to find out for you.
Meanwhile, well, this is starting to become a fight here now. Might as well be worth checking out what's happening behind the top 3 in GT3, as we've pretty much covered the top 3 battle for the most time. We've seen some Porsche squabbles in behind, but yeah, there's been some interesting developments going on in the midfield of this race. Talking is an art form. So we have 4th in class, Julian Chico in the BMW, a bit in no man's land at the moment, but he's doing a good job out there. Followed by Cesco Munuera, who's having a much better race today than he did in recent RCLs. A strong 7th in total here, 5th in class still. And then you still have a couple of Porsches quite close together. You have Dima Jomarov leading over Jeremy Miles, where we've also seen at Road Atlanta previously. And Anson Filer's only 6 seconds behind that. And then it's already Kimi Hapler. Of course, he still has that 26-second gap, but he is, I think, the fastest car on track at the moment. And one of the fastest drivers in general on this track. So he will probably catch up within 20 laps or so. At the very latest, perhaps even earlier. Enrico Bräuniger is a bit further behind, 30 seconds behind that. But he's also still on a quick move. So those two could be interesting to move up the field later on in the race.
a little bit of an update on Ali Zahir. He ran a bit wide on the S's and took a bit of a trip into the kitty litter, but managed to keep it moving and didn't take any damage, which is the main thing. He's obviously back on track and not phased by his little trip off the track. He seems to be pretty much straight back to his pace.
Adrian Lunio not using the flasher in any sparse way, he's using all of it.
100% flash. Yeah. Am I right in thinking this is going to be entirely in the light? There's not going to be any night in this race.
Indeed, we will go into the evening hours, but not into the night here today. Maybe.
I thought so.
Maybe it won't take too long until we see night action back at tracks like Road Atlanta. But at the moment, there are some things prohibiting us from doing it, basically.
Yeah, it's currently 10:15 in game time right now. So I didn't think would make it to the night. I thought that seemed like it was probably a bit far.
It's a bit of an interesting situation here. Jeremy Miles, the BMW in behind of him. That's Jason Kezar a lap down, but on a quicker pace. And then in 9th, it's Anson Feiler. But the car he's been overtaken by is not for position, because that one is Rondon Hood leading the race. So we will see some in-between GT3 action, as Enrico Bräuniger just took 11th from Dima Jamirov, who's in the pits and repairing the car, as well as getting some fresh rubber on, I think. So also for the GT3 zone, that's another Porsche coming in, actually. That seems to be Jeremy Miles. Yes, it is. So even for the GT3s, it's kind of what you said. Taking on some safety tires, repairing damage to prevent worse. Because in the long run, it will still help.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a broken record at this point. It's still a lot of race to go. But so any damage you take will obviously drag throughout the entire length of the race. And it might just be better and quicker overall to get it fixed and get it done with.
Here we are getting close to completing 1/3 of the distance. Usually you would say 1/2, but this is not the case here. It is a longer race. I mean, in all honesty, I actually think that Road Atlanta is a lot more challenging than most other tracks we have in a long race format. Because, for example, the Nordschleife, take a 90-minute race there, you have realistically 12 laps, if I'm not mistaken. My maths out in the end. So
yeah, something like that.
You always have variation. Of course, Road Atlanta is a very challenging and great track to race on, but 90 minutes, that is in a GT3 already, I think, 70-ish laps.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at 1 hour 2 of the race right now, so we've only been going 28 minutes, and we've already done 22 laps for the GT3s. So if you kind of math that out, it's a lot of laps. And keeping your concentration over that many short laps for that length of time is definitely a challenge for these drivers. And at a track like Road Atlanta, you can't stop concentrating. There's so many corners where even the minor concentration slip will lead to you going off track, and then it's just grass wall.
Yeah, and
which
of course,
leads to big damage.
Of course, it's a way shorter track, as Dominic Lala is going to put a lap on his rival, you could actually say, in this race, Luciano Icaso. But since the lap is a lot shorter, you will also approach more cars, and you will approach them more quickly.
Yep, of course.
So it's very demanding on that side as well. It's not like the Nordschleife where you can just take a look at the rear view mirror and then roundabout check out when the next car is going to arrive, because at Road Atlanta it's just around the next corner every single time. As you just see right here, Adrian Lunio and Alizai having to make their way through 2 cars of traffic out of the sun.
Adrian Luna going all out with the flashing again there. But Alizai here just not able to get alongside.
Diving down the inside of Jason Kazar, both of them. But yeah, those are the situations you need to find a gap, and those are the situations you can use to get past. Adrian Jr. wasn't quite lucky enough to catch one while being behind Roland and Hood, and they're both about 8.5 seconds behind the Porsche leading GT3. But looking at Jason, he's going at a very respectable pace. He is not losing out too much to the leader, to the net leaders in GT3.
No, he's had very good pace here. He has been doing a bunch of the public races with me and some of the more regular guys. Adrian Lenoir desperately is in risk of running into flashing button fatigue at this rate.
He had a look on the inside of turn 1 there of Alizai, but no chance. The AMG can have a very strong run on the outside there. It doesn't demand you to really drop to the inside like the Porsche or Audi do.
I do wonder if Adrian Lenoir's maybe got a little bit extra pace than Alizai here and he's desperate to get past, or is he just getting fooled into thinking he's got a bit of extra pace because he's got the draft?
To be honest, with the way he was behind Ronan, I actually think he has the pace to do it. But Alizai and Ronan Hood are both so good at defending. They know what they have to do. They're both experienced. And of course, Adrian Lunio is experienced as well, as they now go side by side. Maybe this time Lunio can make it pass. And indeed he does. Can he get a good enough exit? It seems like Alizai couldn't get a good exit at all. And that's now second position for Adrian Lunio. But I think he has the excess pace, but getting past is a whole different thing. If you leave no open room for your opponent to go through, you can be as fast as you want.
That is very true. And Alizai here is definitely one of our smarter racers here. He knows how to defend a line, like you said before. And he did keep Adrian Lenoir behind him for a good 5-10 laps, maybe, then?
Yeah, at the very least. But so did Ron and Hood. And I can tell you, it's not easy to defend from Adrian Lunio. He has done some very great moves. But if you know who you are dealing with, and of course Ron with FDI had a good opportunity to spectate the AMG driver. But if you are aware of what your opponent does, where his strong points are, and where your own strong points are, you can basically form a strategy that blocks out every strength of your opponent. And what Ruan did every time, because he's in the Porsche, Lunio is in the AMG, use the rear engine to its full effect and just block Lunio from where he is faster to overtake, which was especially in the S's.
Yeah. Yeah, it was some clever driving by Rowan for sure. He identified where he was strongest and he used it to his advantage.
Enrico Bräuniger on his way to the top 10. Jeremy Miles, the driver in question, he has to overtake. He's going for the inside to defend, the Porsche driver. Can he get it stopped in time? Yes, he does. And he also used the rear engine to full effect here. But Enrico Bräuniger saw it coming, I think. He preferred the exit speed and sacrificed the
Yeah,
entry
he
for
seemed to
it.
get a very good run there, didn't he?
Looked very good, but I don't think he can really make a move here into turn 1 unless Miles wants right, but he doesn't.
Start-finish straight is quite short here at Road Atlanta. It's difficult to get a move done there. You're either looking to make one of a move into some of the bigger braking zones or on the long back straight, or if your opponent runs wide.
That's one way to get past.
Putting people under pressure is always a valid way to overtake.
Still a good performance here by Jeremy Miles. I just want to mention that quickly. Because even though he's running 11th in the race, you have to see what opponents he has, what kind of competition he's up against. About most of them you can create even long or very long stories about what they accomplished in racing. Some of them even part of some esports series. So it's very respectable still. Same goes for Anson Filer, for instance, who's currently running 8th. That's 6th in class.
And some Filer, actually, as a good segue, had a bit of a shocker of a last lap, doing 125, and that's allowed Kimi Harpler to really close up to him. He's now only 8 seconds behind. Kimi, I think, does have the pace on him, so if he keeps this up, he should be looking for an overtake in maybe 5 or 6 laps' time.
Yeah, I mean, Kimi has the pace on most of the grid. In all fairness, he's doing mid-19s, and that's with traffic and all that. So, yeah, I can see him moving up the grid. The only other drivers in that pace range are the top 3, 100, Adrian Lunio and Alizaya. Julian Chicot at 20.5.
Yeah, I don't think Adrian Luneau just had the best lap of his time round here. Yes, Ali Zahir has just caught up with him quite a lot in the last lap. The gap was about a second and a half before, and now it's down to 0.8. Ali Zahir's last lap was a mid-18, which is pretty good going.
Oh, Ikazu missing his breaking point. Cutting some grass here. But it did the right thing, just kept it straight. But yeah, those differences in lap time, I think they... Oh, and Dominic Lala has spun. And now he's causing... Well, not like he could do much against it, but Adrian Lunio now has to pit somewhere. And Alizar is right with him. But...
Yeah, that's closed that gap right up.
Well, that basically replaced what I wanted to say, because I was about to say the different classes and the lapping maneuvers, they will always come at different times, so you will always see the fluctuation in lap times between the cars. It's hard to really get a clear indication of pure pace in a race like this.
Yeah, for sure. But a bunch of traffic like we have right now, then it's lap times do go up and down, and gaps kind of concertina depending on who's got traffic and who hasn't.
Is Jason Kizar in the pits, or has he DNF'd?
I will try to find out for you. I'll be your roving pit lane porter.
Alizar with a very sketchy moment there.
Jason was in the pits. He's just leaving now.
Well,
He seems to have empty track, so he shouldn't be getting in anybody's way.
That's always a good thing when coming out of the pits, especially after repairs, to get dialed in with the car again. Will surely not be the last time we see a car in the pits. We still have a long way to go. Dominic Ladler putting a lap on both FDRL drivers. FDRT, I'm
But
sorry.
talking about gaps concertinaing, Ali Zahir is now at second behind Adrian Luneau again.
I'm surprised how quickly Luneau built up that gap after pretty much losing all of it in the traffic from that Dominic Ladler created. Just went up again, but I'm sure we will see those two back together fairly soon. But Vernon Hood also built up the gap to the two AMD, just now up to 9 seconds. 9 full seconds. I think before it was just below 9. It's staying pretty consistent, all things considered, but it's just the 10th here, 10th there. He's always taking small chunks out of it.
He's just done his fastest lap of the race, actually, doing a 1:18.5. His fastest lap overall is currently with Ali Zahir with a 1:18.4.45, sorry, which is only 500ths faster. But they're obviously not feeling anything wrong with their tyres right now, with 40 minutes into the race, 50 minutes left to go.
It will probably be the longest stint on the new tires anybody has driven. Oh, Anson Feiler has spun in the S's, and Kimi Haplas up into 8th.
Oh, I was looking forward to that fight happening. Kimi Hapler now 60 seconds down the road from Chestu Manera. Well, they're already gobbling into that gap. So I wonder if Chestu is having a bad lap. Let's see if I can find him.
I mean, Kimi
He does have
Hapler...
some damage to the front of his Porsche. So maybe he had a bit of an error.
there's some definitely, but we also shouldn't forget that Kimi Hapler, I think he is the record holder in the Porsche GT3. I'm not 100% sure, but he's definitely way up there.
Yeah, he's not no slouch around Road Atlanta, that's for sure.
Not quite sure what the winning margin was in the FDRL race, but for a 60-minute race it was a lot.
And the Ali Zahir, Adrian Lenoir accordion continues, and the gap now 0.6 seconds.
Closing speeds are really insane sometimes in certain parts of the track, especially for something as challenging and tight as this one. But in a situation like this, you can't just squeeze by the GT3, and Dominic Ladler did the absolute right thing there and wait. Of course, this will lose some time in the grand picture of things, but Luciano Ikazu has to go through the same issue at some point. It will always even out.
Yeah, it's there are definitely certain places that are a better place to try to overtake in one of the hypercars. And Dominic Ladler there choosing the right option and waiting and just powering away at the end of the straight, at the beginning of the straight. But it must be difficult for the guys in the hypercars to adapt to these GT3s, especially in the faster sweeping corners. They will have a lot better downforce, obviously, and drive. And you've got to take that into account.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've talked about in previous multi-class races quite a few times. And something that I really like about the hypercars, that they're not as radical anymore on the brakes as their predecessors, which were LMP1s. Because there it really was quite insane how big the difference was. And I mean, you have to also keep in mind that the LMP1 cars competed against GTEs, which were considerably faster than the GT3. They're more